channel. As you can see, we are here with JD.
JD, of course.
So we're doing the deck profile on Tsukuyomi.
Yes.
We already did multiple deck profiles on premium OTT, because the deck really runs around, of course, having Stillwater with Silent Tom, which is the greatest, but you have to think smart about how to make your pluses.
Yeah.
And Tsukuyomi is actually one of the decks that JD always wanted to play.
Yeah.
And this was the right time to make it.
Yeah, I could get the right chain for a lot cheaper, because in Oracle Think Tank the right chain was always pretty darn expensive. I could get it in the G era for like $120, but I had to not buy it because of the struggle. And after that I never saw it being that cheap anymore, especially after set 12. So now it's my time to shine with my build on the Tsukuyomi right chain.
Right. So the reason why a lot of people choose for Tsukuyomi is because you can make a lot of pluses and you don't miss right. Of course, if you guys don't know the skills, he lets you check the top 5 cards for the grade 1. The grade 1 lets you check the top 5 cards for the grade 2 and the grade 2 for the grade 3. Yeah. Whenever you ride into the grade 2, you can soul charge 2. That does help out if you want to do your deer play. Let's say you get more grade 3s in your soul.
I already had one game where I just soul charged the grade 3 with the grade 2. Yeah. So I was set for my deer plays.
Yeah. And also, the thing is, when you go into her, you can then go to the stride, which is the Tsukuyomi stride, which helps you check the top 4 cards to put 2 of them in your hand.
Keep in mind, for the stride you have to put a Tsukuyomi into your hand, so
from your hand
into the soul. So keep in mind that you have at least one of these units in hand before going into her.
Yeah, that's the good thing, because Oracle Think Tank now still lacks the power of good first stride, because you don't really want to waste your Silent Tom and then you have to go with options like him, which is good because he has the hit pressure, he flips something. But it's not as good as having this, which could help you to checking the top 4 for, let's say, mostly your Silent Tom, sometimes maybe heal triggers or PGs. But getting your combo pieces to your hand would help out going into Stillwater Silent Tom combo.
And what this deck really does quite well is just compressing your deck without having to commit from your hand. So most of the time I don't have the right grades in my hand. The right chain can fix that, because I will write from the top 5 of my deck. Or when I whiff the top 5, I will have one of them into my hand I can write normally. That does cost my hand, but it's giving right consistency. And the compressing of the deck is really fun and really nice.
Alright, so let's go into, let's say, the grade 3s, because you have them already in your hand. So first, as we know, we play, or JD plays 4 copies of the Tsukuyomi.
Then, as a backup, her big sister, CEO Amaterasu, and we'll just show off the pretty OR. So Amaterasu, she's really a great backup, because she can be a good rear guard because she gets power, but also she gives you the protect marker. What I often do, if I get the red chain off and I go into her, I can choose to just ride her because it's deck thinning. But if I whiff on the grade 2, so let's say I whiff and don't get my grade 3, riding her is perfectly okay because I get the marker, and next turn I want to go into her anyways, because the 12k body is always better than an 11k body, in my opinion.
Yeah, the thing is, if you go into the next grade 3, which is deer, you need 2 grade 3s in your soul.
Yep.
And that's when the extra soul charge from the grade 2 helps if you hit 1 grade 3. And then when you ride into her, you can rewrite the next turn into CEO.
Yeah.
Or even a deer. That would be okay if you have 2 in your hand. You get the protect marker to your hand, which is very good against, let's say, the mirror match, Nobutama, a lot of decks. And it's always nice to have a PG in hand. And also you have enough grade 3s in your soul to use Deer. Because remember, with the right chain you are already putting at least 4 cards into the bottom, and you do that 3 times. So you have, let's say, like 13 cards into the bottom of your deck that you know what they are.
Yeah.
Then you use his skill, so you put even more cards. You shuffle them, but that doesn't matter because that would put the bottom
higher up.
Yeah, higher up.
Yeah.
So you could hit those triggers that you know that they are there soon.
When his skill was revealed, and it said like I only shuffle the bottom of the cards that goes to the bottom, I was screaming like this is perfect for Tsukuyomi, because finally we have a card that doesn't mess up your stack.
Yeah.
Maybe only the top 7 or 5, but that's fine by me. You keep your main stack intact.
Yeah.
So that's for the Great Reese.
And she does the same, of course.
Yeah.
She put the other 2 in the bottom of your deck.
So-
there is no card in this deck that shuffle except Ultima.
Except Ultima, yeah. So for the Great Reese, I've already told the Tsukuyomi, and to accompany her, I have the Promised Daughter. 3 times. Because she's just amazingly free, can be retired, so it's a big no-no to retire clans, and she's just a 15k body. And yeah, I must say that you have to have 4 cards or more in hand, but
You're playing Oracle
it's
Tank.
Oracle Tank. If you have less than 4
Attack first with the Vanguard,
attack
you have
first
more.
with the Vanguard, yeah, exactly. So it's really not big of a deal to have those 4 cards. And of course, the thing that makes Stillwater absolutely broken, the 4 Silent Tom. He gets power for counterblast 6k, and he stops guarding with normal units if you attack the Vanguard. So keep in mind, it's only when he attacks the Vanguard, and it's just amazing. So that's the Grade 2 lineup. Go into the Grade 1s. The Grade 1s may look a bit messy, but I know it works. So, 4 of the right chain, 2 of the steroid chicken. Because you soul charge with the Grade 2, you can also afford to pay his cost without damaging your right chain. Because if you want to use her as a rear guard and be an 11k attacker, you have to keep the right chain intact, because she will lose 2k power if you don't. So I normally don't call this to a rear guard, but the possibility may occur that you want to have her as a rear guard. But
even as a Vanguard, she loses the 2k if you don't have. You need to have the Grade 0, the Grade 1 and the Grade 2 to keep up the 11k.
If you use this one early game, don't soul blast your right chain.
Yeah.
And to give me a little bit more of breathing room, I will play 2 Oracle Guardian Gemini. At 3 damage I can put him into soul, so my soul will get a little bit more bigger for the cards that soul blast, also Stillwater, and he gives me a counter charge. I must say this deck isn't counterblast heavy because of the right chain. It's completely free. Only Stillwater counterblasts. Silent Tom uses a counterblast, and that's basically it. The next card also counterblasts, but that's a card I hardly use anytime. So it's the Circle Magus. I must say this too can be anything you would like. I like the Circle Magus because I can stack the bottom of my deck during my drive checks. And if I do ride her, she's a draw for counterblast, so that's not the worst thing ever. And to finish it up, 2 Oracle PGs, because a mirror match is still a thing, and at least with these I can guard Stillwater. Blazing Paladin doesn't like these because of the gamble to get them back to hand. I'm lucky most of the time because I don't bind. What he does is counterblast in drop zone, counterblast 1, get him to hand, and bind a random card from your hand, so you can potentially bind himself. Most of the time I'm lucky and I will get him to my hand, but also the idea of having a perfect card in hand also works. But
your opponent doesn't see which card you
yeah,
ban.
exactly. Only I can check what.
And also you normally use him to get him back to your hand in situations that you really need him. Let's say you're playing in the mirror match and you think, well, that extra grade 1 could help me out to stop that attack, so you take the gamble. Even if you get rid of something that you really need, this could be the card that helped you out. At least don't get him or get a protect marker, then it's alright.
Yeah.
But it's good to have 2-1-2, I think, in this situation. You don't have any other great ones that you have to run. I mean, this is a deck card, this is the card, this is the card. Everything in here is actually a deck card.
You could also choose one of these two and run the Farfel Magus to stack a little bit more, or just anything what you would like, basically.
Yeah. So the only cards that you really need in this deck is actually, let's say, these 4 and these 2. That's really smart to run.
Yeah.
And all the others are tech cards that you run. And as you can see, JD runs, let's say, 2 of this and 2 of that, so that he has the options. Like the Gemini is a nice option to have, but you don't need him at 4.
I tried 4 Circle Magus without Gemini. Sometimes we'll get a game and then the counter charge will get in clutch, so I would like Gemini back. Circle Magus in standard, a 4 off no matter what. In premium, because I have the ride chain, I don't really want to ride her. It's a backup. If you would have this deck completely V with a G-Zone smashed into it, yeah, then it's a 4 off. But really for this particular ride chain, 2 Circle Magus is fine. So now going into the grade 0s, of course your starter, because there is no other starter you have to run. Then I play 2 of the draw PGs because they're useful. They're draws, so if I draw another draw from it, it's not a waste and I will not cry. And yeah, it's giving me more space into my G1 slots, and that's basically why I run 2.
Yeah. And also because I will explain after he shows all the triggers.
Yeah. So because I run 2 draw PGs, I will have 2 more space left into my lineup. So I'll play 2 of the efficient carp, basically for my ultima turns, so I can have maybe a stand in my deck, but also for the early game he will make a board presence that doesn't stay. That's really important, because I can put him in the soul and give me a selective draw, because I can check the top. If I don't want it, put it on the bottom and then draw another card. So again, it gives me a draw without having to shuffle my deck, and yeah, give me pluses. So then, of course, the Psychic Bird, because every OTT deck runs Psychic Birds, and this one gives 10k power. And 4 of the Oracle Guardian Nike, give me 1 more that says scissors, and I can play rock, paper, scissors. Do it, please. And to finish off, 4 of the heals. If we get the Battle Sister heals for the English format, I will be testing them out. But I think for this deck I really don't have counterblast issues, so I will stick to the 10k power, 20k shield value stands, because they're just amazing.
Yeah. The thing that I wanted to explain is that I think most Oracle Think Tank decks run these 12.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah. Some people in Japan like to run the other heal, maybe, but
2-on-2 is also an option.
Yeah, but I would not do that, because the counterblast in this deck is not a problem. You could go for the soul charge, but it's also not a problem.
Also not a problem, no.
The crits, you could run more, but you don't have more from the V series, and that's the reason why you only run these 8. And then you're left with the other 4 options. You don't want to run 4 stands, that's too much. So that's why you run the 2-1-2, because this still gives more power. And being a draw trigger is not that bad. Even in a deck that draws too much, it's still okay to damage
Going
check it
to
or dark
4
check it.
draw PGs also tested that out. Really, what I was thinking about is I need the G1 perfect guards for the mirror match, and running 4 draw triggers in a draw heavy deck is also a bit
Too much.
iffy. Yeah, it's too much.
So the only thing that JD also thought about is the other stand that could, the witch stand that could also go back to your deck for the Ultima. But I was just telling him that I think that this card is better. First, this deck doesn't really run around going to Ultima. I mean, it's nice to get it, but you don't have to. He is not your winning condition. Your winning condition comes way before Ultima.
No.
And this stand helps out a lot in some situations to fix your columns and not commit too much to the field, because he leaves the field, as Jay-Z said. So the extra 4k that he gives will still be able to let your units hit the force clans. That's the most important, and also gets you the right cards in your hand. I mean, you check the top 2 for the cards in your hand, especially. That's what he does.
And if you really want to,
goes to the soul.
Yeah, and if you really want to, you could even use the Magus crits that goes back to deck, but then you have to shuffle, so that's not an option for Tsukuyomi build.
And also because this card, you need to have 6 cards in your soul to activate its ability. So getting him in the early game gives you the extra soul. That would be perfect, because riding into her, if your opponent is still on grade 2, so not your ride and stride turn, but you go first, you ride into her, you could use her ability if you have 6 cards in your soul. Normally you have 2, so the grade 1, grade 2, the grade 0, that's 3, the grade 2 gives you 2 extra soul, and you need 1 more. So this is the only card in this deck. And Gemini, but you would not be on 4 damage that soon.
3, but even
3?
so, 3 damage. But even so, being at 3 damage that early, boy.
Yep.
Prepare.
Yeah. So, I still think that the Carp is better.
Yeah.
But you could also run the other one, and you could also take these out to run to any other crits or anything that you want to.
Anything what you like.
These are actually the 2 cards that you could put anything in there.
Yeah.
Right, so going into the strides.
So into the strides, like we mentioned earlier, there aren't really good options, or there aren't really strong options to start with. I think if you get the right chain off, this is a really good first stride, because it pluses you, because you can you kind of pluses 1, because you have to put 1 into your soul, but that's really pretty fine, because you have the chickens that soul blasts, you have the Ikishima that soul blasters, so building up the souls isn't that bad, and you can get 2 cards to your hand in the top 5 that you look at. If there's 1 tom or even 2 toms, you can get them to hand, and it's completely free. So that's why I really like this stride. If you have to be on, let's say you messed up, you go into him, or you're on your Amaterasu, then you can go to him, because the most important thing also is because they flip. So you are securing with 1 G-guard that you can go into Ichikishima the next turn. It's just a solid hit effect. Just if it hits, check top 2, put 1 to your hand, 1 at the bottom of your deck. It's just, it works with what the deck does, really. And if you go into her, you have this to flip. If you go into him, you have this to flip with your still waters.
Yeah,
that's basically it.
You could always flip Sea Breeze first.
You can also flip Sea Breeze first also. So then, of course, for Stillwater, together with Silent Tom, it's your win condition. Everybody knows what this card does. It's just a big middle finger to your G Guardians and your grade 0s.
This card fixes actually the problem that Oracle Think Tank always had, is it didn't have a finisher. Of course, all of us don't know what Bushiroad was smoking when they made the new, Silent Tome.
Yeah.
But I think it's funny. I think that it's really good to have these kind of broken, because this is broken, let's be honest about it, that you have this kind of a broken combo now in the V series, combined with the older cards, so in the premium. With cards like these, this breaks the game. With cards like Zoa, Antlion, and Phantom Black, that breaks the game.
What I love about is they got Itchy Tom, and they're like, okay, we're not gonna restrict it. They make Zoa. Then there is Death Anchor now in premium with Dark Irregulars. They're just like, okay, we don't have to fix broken shit if we give everything broken shit.
So there are some clans that are saying we don't have those broken shit, but I think each and every clan has something. Like let's say Croyos, for example, they still have that strong Glossy Blade, those force markers that you could use with their critical trigger,
and they have
logo to restand.
They have the grade 2 that makes them rewrite 3 times maybe, getting already 3 force markers from the get-go.
So I think each clan is getting something. I mean, you could say that some don't. Let's say that Kakiro don't really have a broken combo. Let's say that Spikes doesn't have a broken combo. But they did get the right cards to be more consistent.
Yeah. And for Kakiro there's still the ability to restand your Vanguard 3 times, but it really...
It's more of the once per turn googling.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that Bushiroad is doing this, in my opinion, the smart way. They're like giving so much broken bullshit that you have to think about everything. But also the normal decks that we have seen Aquaforce in the tops for no reason. It's not broken, but it's still good. So you can see everything. You could still see really everything.
Also keep in mind this combo can still be guarded with with protection gift. Keeping 2 gifts in hand and then maybe going into a next turn with the same bullshit is a little bit hard.
Yeah,
but
the mirror match is interesting.
The mirror match is interesting. Against Mega Colony it's interesting. I would love to test this deck against Dark Irregulars. I have tested on Tabletop Simulator, so it's quite interesting. If somebody in the Netherlands would want to battle this deck against Dark Irregulars when you're completely built, let me know. I will come to you and we will fight and we will film it.
We will do one soon, because I am already thinking about the build for Premium Dark Irregulars. It would not be the broken build with the
5 restand.
Yeah, I will
shenanigans.
I will maybe make that deck. Don't get me wrong, but this is not my priority. I think that Dark Irregulars by itself with Balam, how strong the deck is still good. Okay, let's go to the next.
So to finish up the strides, I have 3 options. I have, of course, the GB8 that's gotten even more powerful with the 10k triggers. I have a Seabreeze because Seabreeze does what Seabreeze always did, punish those that can't ride or don't want to ride. And of course, not really a win con in this deck anymore, but we still play the Ultima.
Yeah. You have space, so why not?
I have space, so why not? I also have the stance for possibility. So that's the strides. Going into the G Guardians to finish up this build. Like D.boy already showed, I play one of the unflip the unflip G Guardian because she's still good for to get on the GB8, but also to get a little bit of hand consistency because I can selective draw what I want to guard with. I play 2 of the Amaterasu G Guards, the fancy reprints or promos. She's just the best G-Guard Oracle Think Tank still has, because with CEO it becomes a 37k body to block. Play one of the Battle Sister G-Guards because I still think the draw for Counterblast and then potentially get the 5k is pretty good. And one of the Dismal to protect my Silent Toms or other units I want to protect.
Oh, that's actually good. So, what do you guys think of the deck? And do you have any different ideas how you build the deck? If you want to see this deck against a particular matchup, we could also do that as well. If you haven't seen the matchup that we did against Mega Colony, because that's actually the most interesting matchup, you could go to our channel and check that as well.
It's a coin toss, but it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, some situations. I mean, if you go through the games goes fast, except the last one, and you can see why it's a coin toss, as JD said. But it's very interesting match. I still like it, and it's like whatever goes into his winning condition first wins.
It was really interesting to play against it because Gridora, I played against it when it was still in G format, and it was pretty scary right then and there, but they lacked a finisher, and my god, they have one right now. And it's not pleasant.
Alright guys, thanks for watching again. Until next time.
Until next time.